Picture this. You are standing in the pouring rain. The
Hmm.
music is, swelling to this dramatic crescendo. The streetlights are reflecting off the wet pavement, and someone is screaming a life-altering confession of love at you across the street.
Right. It is the ultimate cinematic trope, the absolute peak of romantic yearning.
Exactly. But what if I told you that in a massive, globally beloved genre of storytelling, that entire rain-soaked spectacle holds absolutely nothing compared to the romantic tension of someone just peeling a shrimp for you?
I mean, when you lay it out like that, it sounds completely absurd. We are so conditioned to expect romance to be loud.
Yeah, we really are.
But in the specific narrative space, that dramatic confession is just noise. The quiet, messy act of peeling a shrimp, that is deafening.
And that is exactly what we are decoding today. We've got our hands on a truly fascinating essay script exploring the secret language of food and boys love storytelling.
It's a fantastic piece.
It really is. So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out why a shared meal operates as the ultimate love language in this genre. We are looking at how food acts as a highly intricate emotional translator for characters who absolutely refuse to use their words.
They avoid direct communication at all costs.
They really do. Okay, let's unpack this, because right away we hit a massive paradox.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
How does a genre that is world famous for intense, dramatic, tear-jerking yearning anchor its deepest emotional moments in something as profoundly mundane as grocery shopping or boiling instant noodles?
Well, the mundane nature of the food is actually the weapon. To understand how a trip down the produce aisle becomes a romantic turning point, we have to look at the psychology of the protagonists navigating those aisles.
Right.
In boys' love, or BL storytelling, you are very often dealing with a specific archetype. The sources affectionately label it the emotionally constipated disaster.
That phrase is just too good. It paints such a specific picture.
It captures the dynamic perfectly. Think about the characters we usually see in these roles. You have a stoic, untouchable CEO, or a fiercely competitive university rival.
Or an emotionally guarded star athlete.
Exactly. These are people whose entire survival depends on presenting a flawless, highly controlled exterior to the world.
They have to look like they have it all together.
Right. They project this image of perfection, while internally their emotional state is basically an overloaded office printer catching fire.
So they can't just walk up to someone and say how they feel. They would short circuit.
They cannot safely verbalize their feelings at all. They might be terrified of rejection or paralyzed by workplace complications. Or they simply don't know how to exist without their carefully crafted armor.
Wow. So the affection has to, leak out sideways.
Yes, it channels into food. Cooking and feeding become the only safe emotional outlets because they disguise care as mere sustenance.
That makes a lot of sense. You can't always look someone in the eye and say, I am profoundly devoted to you.
No, you definitely cannot.
But you can casually hand them a peeled orange and act like it's no big deal.
And the sources actually map out a very clear evolution in how this edible communication develops. In the early stages of a story, these gestures are almost entirely framed as accidental.
Ah, the classic foundational lie of the genre.
Exactly. It's always, oh, I just happened to make too much stew. Or, I bought an extra coffee by mistake, you can just have it.
Which is hilarious because nobody accidentally perfectly portions and seasons a two-person serving of a complex stew.
Right. So transparent.
It's like when you really like someone and you accidentally on purpose leave your favorite jacket at their apartment.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, you know exactly what you're doing.
Oh.
It's a manufactured excuse to ensure you have to see them again tomorrow. The whole I made too much lie feels like the exact same thing. It gives you plausible deniability.
You're getting warm with the jacket analogy, but take it a step further. Food actually raises the stakes.
How so?
Well, a jacket can sit in a closet for 3 weeks without an issue. A hot homemade stew goes bad.
Oh, right. It forces an immediate interaction.
Exactly. It demands that the other person sit down and consume the effort right then and there. And as the emotional intimacy between the characters deepens, that plausible deniability vanishes.
So they drop the act.
They do. The cooking evolves from these supposedly accidental gestures into high-effort, deeply intentional domestic labor.
Because the meals stop being practical and start becoming incredibly personal.
Yes, because effort is a measurable metric. You can deny your words all day long, but you cannot deny the fact that you stayed awake until 2 a.m. meticulously stirring porridge for someone who has a fever.
The sources actually bring up a Japanese series called What Did You Eat Yesterday? as the gold standard for this kind of measurable effort.
It is a total masterclass in this trope. In What Did You Eat Yesterday, the character Shiro deeply struggles with public affection.
He's the one with a lot of anxiety about his relationship with his partner, Kenji, right?
Yes, he's terrified of their relationship being visible to the outside world. He cannot give Kenji grand public declarations.
So he compensates through cooking instead.
He does, through incredibly meticulous, budget-conscious, nutritionally balanced home cooking. The sheer amount of time he spends hunting for a bargain on fresh salmon, planning the weekly vegetable intake, and beautifully plating the food.
That is his daily, undeniable love letter.
Exactly.
The essay also mentions a Taiwanese manhwa called Day Off, which approaches this from a slightly different angle. You have a gentle corporate supervisor using carefully prepared lunchboxes to quietly care for his subordinate.
It's a really sweet dynamic.
It is. And what I love about that is how it bypasses the entire corporate structure.
Oh, completely.
You have this incredibly rigid workplace hierarchy, but a homemade lunchbox doesn't care about who is the boss and who is the employee. It strips all those titles away and just says, I care about your well-being.
And that brings us to the actual dining table. Because if the preparation of the food is the hidden confession, the table is the emotional battlefield where the confession is received in real time.
Right. The cooking is just the prep work.
Exactly. If cooking is the labor, serving the food is a complex language of its own. The sources outline a framework for this called the hierarchy of service,
which breaks down into 3 distinct levels during a shared meal: observation, protection, and devotion.
You got it.
Observation seems fairly straightforward, you know. It's noticing the small things.
Right, paying close attention.
Picking the cilantro out of their noodles before passing the plate, because you've noticed they push it to the side. Memorizing their exact spice tolerance so they don't suffer through a meal.
Correct. Observation is the baseline. Protection goes a step further into physical intervention.
Like blowing on a spoonful of hot soup before feeding it to them so they don't burn their tongue.
Exactly. And then you reach the peak, which is devotion. And that brings us to the legendary shrimp peeling trope.
Okay, I actually have to push back a little on this one.
Well, really?
Yeah, because I'm reading the sources, and I'm thinking, wait, I blow on my nephew's soup when it's hot. I've peeled shrimp for a friend when their hands were full.
Sure.
That doesn't make it a romantic declaration. Isn't a lot of this just basic, common good manners? There has to be a line between being polite and exposing your soul.
That ambiguity is exactly the trap the characters fall into. But the context is what elevates it from manners to devotion.
How do you mean?
Well, peeling a shrimp is inherently inconvenient. It requires you to get your own hands covered in sauce, to completely stop eating your own meal, and to physically labor for the person sitting across from you.
I mean, that is true. It's a hassle.
And crucially, in these stories, it is almost always done in public. When a character stops their own meal to meticulously peel shrimp for someone else at a crowded table, they are making a subtle but undeniable public declaration.
They're communicating to everyone watching that this person's comfort matters more to them than their own.
Yes.
So it's the public visibility combined with the sacrifice of their own comfort.
It represents a fundamental psychological shift in the narrative. If you watch the choreography of these dining scenes closely early in a series, characters focus heavily on their own plates.
It is a posture of self-preservation.
Exactly. But the moment they start prioritizing the other person's plate, checking if they've eaten enough, refilling their water without being asked, peeling their seafood, the self becomes secondary to the pair.
The emotional priority physically rearranges itself on the table.
It really does.
That physical choreography is so clear in the Thai series I told Sunset about you.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, the character Te uses very specific regional foods, like hibiscus-scented treats and hockey noodles, to gauge and respond to his partner Owao's emotional state.
He pays such close attention.
He does. It goes way beyond just feeding him. He is using the food to read him. The hockey noodles become an emotional barometer. The service ritual exposes a level of unconscious devotion that you simply cannot fake or rehearse.
Which brings us to the importance of the setting. Because we have established that serving food exposes all this deep devotion, but the sources make a critical point about where the characters actually eat.
Right, the location dictates how honest they're allowed to be.
Exactly. The contrast between public dining spaces and private kitchens in BL is incredibly stark.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. I want to connect this to something we've all probably experienced.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about the last time you ran into your boss, or someone you only know in a strict professional context, at a grocery store late at night. They're in sweatpants, holding a box of cereal.
Oh, that is always so jarring.
Right, that sudden stripping away of their professional aura. The kitchen in BL weaponizes that exact psychological drop. It's like a neutral zone in a war movie.
I like that analogy.
When two opposing soldiers end up stuck in a ruined basement, they have to stop fighting and just survive the night. You physically cannot maintain your perfectly crafted, untouchable armor while you are frantically trying to chop onions or when you accidentally burn the garlic.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. Kitchens completely dismantle hierarchy. I mean, compare a messy domestic kitchen to a luxury restaurant date.
It's night and day.
It really is. A high-end restaurant is formal, it is rigid, and it is intensely performative. The characters are sitting across from each other, maintaining perfect posture, keeping their masks fully intact because society is watching.
It often heightens their social anxiety. You have to be the untouchable CEO or the perfect student.
But then you drop those same two people into a private kitchen at 2 in the morning.
It changes everything.
Suddenly, a boss and an employee, or two bitter rivals, are just two exhausted people in sweatpants trying to figure out why the rice cooker isn't working.
Because domestic spaces force authenticity.
Yes, because cooking is inherently messy and unpredictable. The sources highlight the raw intimacy of sharing instant ramen straight from the pot.
The pot sharing. Because at 2 a.m., nobody wants to wash an extra bowl. It is such a universally relatable, deeply human moment.
And that shared inconvenience creates accidental honesty. Look at the Korean drama Semantic error.
Oh, I know that one.
You have Sang-woo, an incredibly rigid, rule-following computer science student whose life is scheduled down to the minute, and Jae-young, a chaotic, free-spirited design student.
They clash on every possible level.
They do. Their boundaries only truly begin to erode when they are sharing cheap, casual, convenience store food. The physical proximity forced by sitting on a curb eating a hot dog completely changes their dynamic.
That makes total sense.
Or take the Korean manhwa BJ Alex, where the characters have built these highly constructed, flawless online personas.
Right.
But when they share unpolished, real-world meals, it anchors them in actual vulnerability. They start performing for an audience and start simply existing beside each other.
Okay, so the messy kitchen strips away the armor and forces them to exist in the same reality. But the essay goes even deeper into the actual food itself, right? The flavor profile.
Yes. The specific flavors introduced into that neutral zone dictate the emotional weather of the entire scene.
So food functions as a highly specific edible metaphor.
Exactly. In BL storytelling, flavors are mapped directly to emotional states. Spicy food almost always equates to tension, jealousy, or burning longing.
That's fascinating.
You will see scenes of characters sweating through unbearable heat, literally suffering through a spicy dish, while absolutely refusing to admit they are emotionally uncomfortable or jealous. It is culinary warfare.
Flirting through weaponized spice tolerance. I love it.
A total test of endurance. Then you have bitter flavors, which consistently mirror conflict, heartbreak, or unexpressed regret.
And finally, sweet flavors, which represent reconciliation, comfort, and emotional breakthroughs.
Yes.
The detail that really caught my eye was from the Thai series SOTUS.
Oh, that's a classic example.
You have this fiercely intimidating senior character, Arthit, who basically terrorizes the freshmen. But he has this deeply guarded secret craving for sweet pink milk.
Right.
When his junior starts buying it for him, the introduction of that sweetness tracks perfectly with the complete softening of their hostile dynamic.
That pink milk absolutely becomes their shared secret language. And it is worth noting how this specialized gastronomy shifts depending on the cultural landscape, too.
How so?
Well, Japanese BL often leans heavily into micro-domesticity. It focuses on the quiet, private intimacy of a tiny Tokyo apartment, simmering a single pot of miso soup, carefully budgeting for groceries.
So it is an inward-facing, highly private intimacy.
Exactly. Thai BL, conversely, thrives on street culture.
Right, the intimacy there is incredibly public. It's sharing a searingly spicy sumtum or a massive hot pot at a chaotic, sensory overload night market.
Yes, you are folding the romantic development into the reality of everyday community life.
But this raises a mechanical question about pacing.
Okay.
If food and cooking are all about building this slow, steady domestic safety, what happens when that safety is moving too slowly for the story?
When they get stuck, basically.
Right. Yeah. What happens when the characters are too comfortable in their plausible deniability? Because I was reading this and wondering, if food is about building trust slowly over dozens of meals, why do so many of these stories suddenly throw heavy drinking into the mix right when things are getting stable?
That is a great question. It's because alcohol is the ultimate narrative disruptor.
Oh, interesting.
If food is structural and safe, alcohol is fast, chaotic, and it forces immediate, clumsy truth. The drunken confession trope is a massive pillar of the genre.
I can imagine.
In stories like Dangerous Convenience Store, alcohol is utilized to deliberately lower those cognitive defenses. It violently tears down the professional facades and forces those long-buried truths into the light.
It essentially skips the slow burn.
It forces the issue, yes, but what makes it truly interesting is what happens after the disruption.
What do you mean?
The aftermath of drinking shifts the power dynamic completely. Suddenly, the sober character is thrust into a caretaking role.
Oh, right. Wiping a feverish forehead, boiling a specific hangover soup.
Exactly. Managing the vulnerability of the person who just confessed everything, so the alcohol disrupts the status quo, but it ultimately circles right back to the intimacy of the service ritual.
The caretaker proves their reliability.
Precisely.
So we've seen how food acts as this intricate communication, how the kitchen breaks down armor, and how flavors set the emotional tone.
We have covered a lot of ground.
But the sources highlight a specific subgenre, where the act of cooking transcends mere communication. It moves beyond just saying I love you and becomes a literal tether across time and even mortality.
Yes. When we move into stories dealing with memory and reincarnation, the culinary symbolism takes on an incredible, almost crushing spiritual weight. The prime example here is the Thai series, Until We Meet Again.
The notes on this show are absolutely mesmerizing. The food isn't just a metaphor, it's practically a ghost.
It really is. Until We Meet Again, food is literally tied to reincarnated memory. The series revolves around traditional Thai desserts. Things like lam kloon, thong yad, and the intricate dumplings called chor muang. The protagonist, Farm, is a university culinary student who specializes in making these incredibly complex historical recipes. But what the audience gradually realizes is that his ability to make these sweets is actually instinctive muscle memory from a tragic past life.
That is devastating. His hands remember how to fold the desserts before his conscious mind even remembers the trauma of his past life.
And the choice of these specific Thai desserts is crucial because they are incredibly labor-intensive. Take something like loop chup.
What is that exactly?
It requires shaping mung bean paste into perfectly miniature fruits, painting them meticulously, and dipping them in a delicate agar glaze. It requires immense patience and precision.
So it's not something you just whip up in 10 minutes.
No, they are an art form passed down through generations. When Farm's partner Dean eats these desserts, he doesn't just taste sugar, he responds with an unconscious emotional familiarity.
He recognizes the taste on a soul level. So what does this all mean?
Well, it changes the entire context of their interactions.
It means every time they're in the kitchen, it's not just a cute domestic cooking scene. It's haunted. The kitchen becomes a place where the past actively bleeds into the present.
That is exactly it.
I want you, listening to this, to imagine that for a second. Imagine your own deepest, most profound emotional memory, or an inherited grief from a loved one, being involuntarily triggered just by the physical act of folding a banana leaf. Or the smell of simmering coconut cream. It is overwhelming.
It is overwhelming because sweetness in this story constantly exists right beside mourning. Usually in media, a dessert is a pure celebration. Here, it is an echo of a lost life trying to survive.
Cooking becomes a literal attempt to reconnect with someone the soul remembers, but the mind cannot place.
We actually see similar heavy symbolism in Xianxia settings, too, which are these grand, Chinese, immortal fantasy epics.
Right, the sources specifically mention the Untamed.
Think about the mechanics of a Xianxia world. You have characters who live for centuries. They fly on swords, they engage in massive, earth-shattering magical warfare. They are practically gods. So why do they care about something as mundane as food? In the Untamed, the Emperor's smile liquor becomes an absolute symbol of hidden longing and silent grief.
It's an emotional anchor.
Exactly. And amidst all this high-stakes warfare and rigid clan rules, a simple, simmering pot of lotus root and pork rib soup represents unconditional family sanctuary.
When you are an untouchable, immortal being dealing with magical politics, a tiny, fragile bowl of mundane soup is the only thing tethering you to your mortal humanity. It anchors them to comfort.
Which brings us perfectly to the culmination of all this culinary tension, because all this chaotic midnight snacking, the drunken confessions, the haunted desserts, it all eventually has to settle.
Right. If the kitchen at 2 a.m. is where the armor breaks, what does the table look like when they finally don't need the armor at all?
The sources point out a really beautiful narrative pattern. The final meal of a series almost always directly mirrors the first.
Oh, I love that.
It serves as the ultimate visual proof of their emotional evolution. If you think back to episode 1 of almost any BL series, the dining table is a place of distance and anxiety.
Characters sit far apart. There is awkward silence.
They are eating from strictly separate plates, hyper-aware of their boundaries, unsure of their footing.
But then the finale arrives.
And the table tells a completely different story. Without needing any dramatic dialogue, you see fluid table coordination. They are sharing side dishes effortlessly without asking.
One person cooks while the other naturally cleans up.
They know each other's drink orders and exact spice preferences. The physical closeness is totally natural. The Japanese manga Our Dining Table centers its entire premise on this evolution.
Right.
A character who begins the story completely isolated, unable to even eat comfortably in the presence of others, finds lifelong commitment and psychological healing simply by sharing messy, family-style meals over time.
Because it all comes down to the core takeaway of this deep dive. In a genre, and honestly, in a world that is obsessed with grand cinematic gestures, the simple, quiet question, have you eaten yet, actually functions as a marriage proposal.
It truly does. Because eating together repeatedly, consistently, requires immense trust. You have to lower your physical and psychological defenses to consume a meal with someone.
Grand declarations in the rain are memorable, yes. But lifelong commitment is sustained day by day, meal by meal.
And I think that resonates so deeply with you listening to this because we all know, deep down, that real love isn't usually cinematic.
It isn't the dramatic confession with the swelling music. Real love is someone remembering exactly how you take your tea every single morning. It's someone handing you the last dumpling without a second thought.
It is the peeling of a shrimp while pretending it means nothing at all, even though you both know it means absolutely everything.
So we'll leave you with this lingering thought to mull over today. If your own life were a boy's love story, what would it be? What highly specific food quirk, what messy midnight snack, or what painstakingly inherited recipe would be the ultimate, undeniable proof that you have truly fallen in love? Think about it the next time someone offers to peel your shrimp.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. See you in the next one.